Welcome back to Short Game Reviews, your go-to channel for short games on the PlayStation Plus catalog. Today, being October, we are looking at the horror genre. If you want to play a spooky game this month, we got some good news and even more bad news. The good news is that we've sifted through all the duds and bringing you only the top of the pile. The bad news is that most on the list are leaving in the middle of the month. So if you're looking for thrills, chills, and heart-pounding adventure that won't eat up all your free time, these bite-sized nightmares are perfect for a quick scare or a weekend one-and-done gaming session, ranging anywhere from 3 to 9 hours. Inside. This is the highest rated short game on the entire service, not only in the horror genre, but in general. I actually played this last year and remembered it was good, but I didn't think it deserved the title of the best, so I restarted it just for this review and I can see the appeal. Right from the beginning, the atmosphere is set. You press start and you just keep going right. No on-screen prompts, nothing to take you out of the immersive experience, you just go. There's attention to detail in every frame. The moody lighting, the color palette, and the eerie sounds. The mood is instantly set. The premise is basically you're a child that's getting away from something. Why are you running away? Who are you running away from? There's no time. Just go. It's a visually stunning, mysterious adventure that's bound to surprise you. I won't spoil too much, but just say that this game is not for kids. The gameplay is intuitive even though there are zero instructions, with puzzles that are perfectly balanced. Not too hard, but some puzzles might take some backward thinking. The constant aversion from authorities keeps you engaged in its 3-hour journey, and the story is one you'll definitely remember. So if you're going to play any game from this list, make it this one. It is both the shortest and the highest rated, which is why you click this video. It gets really weird at the end as the true nature of what's going on is revealed. So play it until completion because it will be worth your 3 hours.
It's moving again.
What's it spelling?
War.
It's moving fast.
Warning. Shit.
Oh my god. Warning?
Until Dawn. This next game is hugely influential in the horror genre. There have been many games since that copied its style and format, but the original did it the best. Until Dawn is a unique blend of cinematic storytelling and player-driven choices that can lead to multiple outcomes and endings. Each choice you make has weight, which its sequel seems to have forgotten. You have stats for both your character and how well they are getting along with other characters. The horror and gore in this game is the most gruesome I've seen in these types of games. The characters are played by famous faces and feel fleshed out, starring Freddie Mercury and Save the Cheerleader, Save the World. This is a must-play for anyone who loves horror with jump scares. The game revolves around 8 friends who gather at a remote mountain lodge, and as expected, things go sideways real fast. The standout feature is the butterfly system they introduce, where every choice you make has consequences that ripple throughout the game. You are constantly second-guessing your choices because you're afraid of how it might affect the story. Visually, the game is both good and bad. The environments are beautifully detailed, from the eerie snow-covered mountain trail to the creepy abandoned lodge, but it also can show its age sometimes. I mean, this game is from 2015. For how old it is though, the game looks surprisingly amazing at times. As soon as you're done, you'll want to play it again so you can make the opposite choices and see where the story goes from there. It's a strong horror game even if it's more movie than a game. The beginning starts slow as expected, but the later chapters have you taking control of the character way more often and actually shooting things like a proper game. The QuickTime events are rapid button presses, so you better know your controller. Also, a unique feature is the don't move mechanics. Instead of pressing a button to stay still, it uses the controller's built-in gyro capabilities. So if you're resting the controller against your body, even a deep breath will set it off, making it a truly immersive experience. The ending is really satisfying, and a feature I have not seen in any other game is the inclusion of behind-the-scenes content. They really try to make it feel like a movie with a DVD menu and everything. So I'm giving it props for going the distance.
Finally!
Observer System Redux. Observer is a game that loves Blade Runner in 1984, and it makes sure that you know that. My first impression of Observer was to prepare for an indie title with bad graphics, but decent Blade Running type world building. But I was quickly surprised. The graphics were actually really good in some parts, and it was closer to a very adult version of What Remains of Edith Finch, mixed in with the detective portions of the Batman Arkham games. The story: it's the year 2084 and you are a detective in cyber Poland who can hack into people's memories to solve crimes. It's a cyberpunk world full of augmentation and neon lights, just as you would expect. I was tempted to not include it in here after playing it for half an hour. It seemed like an okay futuristic game, but was kinda confused why it was in the horror category. And then I jumped into my first victim's memory. It was a seizure-inducing nightmare, gory, trippy, and scary. As you investigate all the murders, you will uncover a dark and mysterious narrative that's part detective story and part psychological horror. And body horror too. Most of the gameplay is based around exploration. Similar to Edith Finch, you are exploring people's dwellings and snooping around and gathering clues. But instead of a family home, it's a dystopian cybernetic 4-story apartment building. You enter this building because you're investigating a crime, but become stuck because of a lockdown. You go around knocking on everyone's door and interview some of the shadiest people you've come across in a video game.
Could you point me to the nearest exit?
Oh, yes, I understand completely. Completely. It really is a maze down here, don't you think?
The game truly shines when you tap into people's memories. You'll get freaked out and might even induce a seizure. Lots of scares and disorienting gameplay. Also, since it's a very adult-oriented game, there is mention of everything you can think of that's not suitable for kids. What sets it apart from others on the list and the genre is its ability to create tension and fear without relying on traditional video game tools, like fake jump scares or big monsters and violent combat. It's a psychological thrill ride that will take you to some twisted places. The dark and unsettling atmosphere, disturbing narrative, and eerie sound design, scored by Robin Fink of Nine Inch Nails fame, contribute to a sense of fear and tension that's unparalleled. Observer is proof that you don't need monsters or aliens to make a game scary. A person's mind is plenty messed up.
They both just come and go as they please, really. Teenagers, am I right?
The Quarry. Very similar to the last game and often compared, The Quarry is stronger in some aspects and weaker in others, but it all comes down to your preference. The Quarry is also a cinematic horror game where you take control of 8 young adults facing deadly and maybe supernatural threats. The first thing you notice with The Quarry versus Until Dawn is its characters. Until Dawn had a blend of perfect actors acting as a typical horror movie trope characters, but The Quarry feels like you're playing actual teenagers. Their voices and mannerisms feel less like actors and more like awkward teenagers trying to get out of their shells. Almost everyone has the light shined at their insecurities as we get to find out more about the characters. Even the stereotypical frat boy jock has his breakdowns. The main thing I liked about The Quarry versus Until Dawn was how the build-up was during the daytime. You got to explore the whole campground knowing that you'll be back here later when the danger arrived. It gave a sense of realness that would come from being camp counselors that had spent months leading up to this point. Versus Until Dawn, I had no idea where anything was and would constantly walk around aimlessly until the danger was right in my face. There was definitely more mystery with Until Dawn, which is a good thing, but here you had a tiny bit more control because you knew your surroundings a little bit better. Although Until Dawn is arguably the better game, I had a better time with The Quarry. The graphics are better, the motion capture is better, the quality of their voices is better. I don't know why, but in Until Dawn, the voices sounded like they were coming through a radio, and in The Quarry, the vocal quality had so much more depth.
So, you would tell the truth, even if it resulted in an unpleasant outcome for a friend.
Okay, this is, you've heard of spatial awareness before, right?
Spatial awareness is for nerds.
Another reason people liked Until Dawn better is because it felt more like a game. The QuickTime events were button presses that demanded your knowledge of the controller, whereas in The Quarry, all QTE events were controlled with a joystick. So it seemed like they pushed harder into being a cinematic playable movie versus a game, and gamers hated them for it. They even included an actual movie mode where you get to pick if everyone lives or everyone dies, or something in between. So you get a perfect hands-free cinematic experience if you really wanted to.
It wanted to show me something.
The Medium. The Medium follows the journey of Marianne, a medium with the ability to perceive both the spirit world and the material world simultaneously. Players control Marianne in both worlds at the same time, navigating puzzles and challenges in both dimensions to uncover the truth behind the haunting of the Neva Resort. The story is the central focus of The Medium, and it delves into themes of trauma, loss, and the supernatural. Now, as for my personal experience with The Medium, I had high expectations due to my positive encounter with The Observer, which was made by the same team. However, that hope turned into disappointment.
Hey, Marianne. You look like shit.
The controls felt dated, almost like a PS3 game, which was a noticeable drawback. Graphically, The Medium did not even surpass its predecessor, despite being a newer release. Although being a PS5 title, it was laggy and had the worst loading times I've encountered so far on the PS5. The only thing that made The Observer not so perfect were the stealth portions, which a lot of people complained about. It really took you out of the immersion. Here, they decided to double down on that. Not only do they have unskippable cutscenes beforehand, but God forbid if you die, because you'll have to wait 40 seconds to retry try again, and then watch the same 15-second cutscene just to try to sneak by an invisible monster. This made for a very frustrating experience. Instead of fear-inducing, it was rage-quit-inducing. Since the controls were so clunky and the character moved so slowly, the run button was an absolute joke. This supposedly 5-hour game will feel like a 20-hour one because of how much of a slog it is. The story is amazing, and unfortunately, it is worth playing until the end, despite the torture. It's almost like the developers have two entirely different teams, one in world building and story, and a completely different one in gameplay and optimization. So if you're watching this, whoever's writing the story, you need to break up and find a new partner. I love your games, and they could be perfect, but you're being held back. So to make up for the last one, here are some honorable mentions that are decent, but didn't make it to the list. Transference, Erica, The Dark Picture Anthology. If you prefer slightly longer games, here are some which are kind of horror, but not quite. Inscription, Ghostwire Tokyo. If you like killing more than just surviving, then Resident Evil 7 Biohazard might still be available if you were lucky enough to nab it from the PlayStation Classic Collection. So play Inside, because we're running out of time. The Medium and the Quarry will both be gone, but their spiritual prequels are still going to be around in service. So if you can't play the Quarry, play Until Dawn. If you can't play the Medium, play Observer. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the spooky season. Until next time, be a friend and I'll see you again.